Denne podcasten sponset av Firi. Over 300 000 nordmenn stoler på Firi med kryptoinvesteringer sine. Bruk Firi du også. Bruk koden impressions og få opp til 265 kroner i kryptobelønning. Vi også sponset av eierbolig.no. De jobber for et mer rettferdig boligmarked, og hvis du har lyst til å spare hele egenkapitaler eller deler av egenkapitalen ved ditt neste boligkjøp, så vil jeg anbefale å signe deg på eierbolig.no/impression. Da har du muligheten til å muligens få kuttet en del av egenkapitalen ved ditt neste boligkjøp. Da vi tilbake med en ny episode av Impressions, og denne skal vi gjøre på engelsk, fordi vi har med oss Matt C. Smith from South Africa. 34 years old, came to Norway twice and is becoming a skier and is aiming to participate in the Winter Olympics in 2026 in Milano, Italy.
That's right, baby.
Welcome.
Tusen takk. And I'm not aiming. I'm going, baby.
You
it's
are
happening.
going.
I qualified.
Name it and claim it.
Name it and claim
you
it.
Qualified.
I qualified. I qualified
Congrats.
just a few weeks. Tusen takk. Where's the gift?
No.
Everyone's giving me gifts.
Yeah, we only have coffee.
And coffee mugs, because I'm taking this one with me. Nice one, Ryan. I love it.
Oh, congrats.
Takk.
Amazing.
Appreciate it.
Can we have a lot of different subjects there. You are sort of like an entrepreneur yourself, but tell us briefly, how did you come from South Africa and decided to go into skiing, cross-country skiing?
It's a good question. Got here from South Africa via England, actually.
Yeah.
So I was born in South Africa, but you're probably wondering why I have a British accent, right? So I grew up in the UK, and I moved to Norway 2017. First time round, built a business here. We'll get into that. But in that process, I sold the business and left the country. Never planning to come back. I did my 4 years. I earned my flag. I ate my waffles. I took the Brunos with me, and I said, "Tusen takk, snakkes." 2 years later, I came back.
Yeah.
And I moved back at a time of year that we'll all either love or hate. November. Where are you on the fence? I moved back as winter started, right?
Yeah.
And like all good relationships, I'd been away. I'd broken up with Norway for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I moved back, and I only remembered the good things.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about winter. So I moved back, ice on the floor. What do I do now, right? I had two options, either lean in or hibernate. Both good options. I think the country's pretty evenly divided on that, right?
Yeah.
This time I decided to lean into winter. And I know you Norwegians have a saying, there's no such thing as bad clothing, only bad weather. No, bad weather, only bad clothing. I think the saying is actually better put, that there's no such thing as bad weather, only a lack of skiing.
Yeah.
So I decided to lean into winter, and I started cross-country skiing. And in that process, I met a Mexican national skier. Not Norwegian, Mexican. Who gave me my first...
Who lives in Norway.
Who lives in Norway, married to a Norwegian, same kind of thing as me.
Yeah.
And he gave me my first ever ski lesson, right? Okay. Cross-country ski lesson. Not Norwegian, but a Mexican. And he represented Mexico, which gave me this light bulb moment. Could I just maybe represent South Africa?
Yeah.
When's the next Olympics? On Google. It's pre-ChatGPT. 3 years' time. Is it even possible to qualify? Well, there's no South African. Could I possibly do this? Long story short, I found out a way to do that. Qualified for my country, started competing, started racing, and here we are 5 weeks after I qualified at the VM for the next Olympics.
Yeah. Impressive.
Takk.
But are you the only skier from South Africa?
I'm the only cross-country skier from South Africa, yes.
Okay, so you don't have a team?
I am the team.
You are the... Do you have a coach?
I have a coach.
You have a coach?
I have a coach. He's, I'm self-funded, right? So my coach is a guy called Ola Ensrud, who's Norwegian, who was a top 20 Norwegian, national skier. Yeah. Works for Holmenkollen Training Lab. And I hired him, a year ago, and
So you pay for it?
I pay for it.
Why don't South Africa pay for it?
I mean, the first thing they said to me when I spoke to my National Olympic Committee and told them who I am and what I want to do, they said, listen, we'll support you bureaucratically.
Yeah.
Good luck to you. But
good luck to you,
but we have no money for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So, and I was like, yeah, cool. I had to prove to them I could pay for it myself, and I was driven to do it. But no, I have since very recently received 2 sponsors, actually.
Oh, you have? Which ones?
Recently. A company called YOLO Group, which is actually one of my customers from Tallinn, Estonia.
Okay.
Who are just the coolest company, and they said, hey, listen, we love the story.
Yeah.
They chucked me some money.
Yeah.
And then One Piece. You know,
One Piece.
One Piece. I know the founders. They're friends of mine.
Yeah, okay,
so they
cool.
actually chucked me a little bit of money, you know, actually a while back to put some kit together for me. So that was very nice of them.
Shout out to YOLO and One Piece.
Exactly. Shout out to those guys.
Yeah, cool. All right, so now it's starting to go upwards with the financials as well. But the coach, how much do you pay to participate in the VM?
No, I mean, it cost me probably 40, 50K to be there, but that's, you know, travel expenses, you know, coach, everything like that.
Yeah.
But no, not that I can remember. We didn't pay anything. No, because you know, you have to qualify for that. So then that's all paid for by FIS, the International Ski Federation, and you know all the just varying bodies attached to it. So no, not that I remember paying any sort of fee to race. Normally, when you race, you have to pay anything from 100 to 1,000 kroners. In a World Cup race or race, but no, not the VM. Not that I remember. No.
How much do you pay for the coach?
So, I mean, it's like $12.50 an hour, you know, and then I do sort of, I buy in bulk, you know, lessons with him. And then obviously we travel, and then that's a different cost per day rate and things like that. So yeah. So
it's a substantial amount
a
year.
Honestly, I haven't done the math, and I don't think I will, because I don't really want to know. But if I think I've spent around 1 million kroners, $100,000 on the skiing thing in the last 2 years or something. And, you know, that's not stopping, that's continuing, right? So I reckon it's around 1 million NOK I spent.
1 million NOK.
I reckon
okay.
So. 800 to 1.2, you know, like it's in that realm, you know, like I would be very surprised if it was less than like 700-800 or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was around 1 mil.
Yeah. So when you decide that, okay, I'm gonna do this, you look like a skinny guy or a fit skinny guy.
Scale shirts off.
Yes, but you know, you did you have you have been into running, or how has your fitness journey been before this?
So fair question, right? No, I didn't just rock up after a Burger King and say, although Nortug is making them healthy, right? But no, I didn't just rock up and do that. So my background is sports, right? So like I was a runner, and I've always been athletic. Sports have always been part of my life.
Yeah, you look athletic.
Yeah, thank you. I've never not been athletic, and never at a high level, never really competing, but I've always been athletic. It's always been part of my life. You know, ask most of my friends. I'm that, you know, friend who's always talking about running and racing and all that kind of stuff. And if you don't know who that friend is, it's probably you. That awkward friend who's always trying to get everyone to do a half marathon or something, right? So no, I did a lot of triathlons when I was in my 2 years off, when I had my exit, when I was basically retired for 2 years. I got into triathlons because what does a founder do when he sells his company or her company? You either do one of three things. You go to Burning Man, you learn to kite surf.
You go to Burning Man.
It's cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, that is so cliche.
Or you get into triathlons, and I did all three.
Yeah. Oh, you went to Burning Man as well?
No, I actually didn't, but I definitely got into to triathlons basically.
Yeah.
So I had a sort of athletic background, and I thought to myself, you know, I apply that to skiing, because triathlon and skiing are very similar. They have this cardiovascular demand on the system, right? Big VO2 maxes, and they're very full body sports, right? So they're holistic. So, you know, actually triathletes do transfer into cross country quite well, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Very different technical sports, of course.
But so you're a fit guy, you know.
I'm a fit guy.
And the VO2 max, what is it?
I'm actually going to test it in the next few weeks. It's mid-60s. It's mid-60s, you know.
Gotta get that up.
Gotta get that. It's meant to be closer to 70. It's meant to be closer to 70. Yeah. So mid-60s or so.
Yeah. I've read a study that said that you know, cross-country skiing is extremely good for VO2 max because of the hills. So you get, it's like interval, and then you use the entire body as well. But you go up a hill, and then it's very hard, and then you have a short break because you go down a hill, and then it's up and down. So it's more up and down than running, which is often you know, very
same heart rate,
steady
pacing. Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so then cross country skiing, and then you buy your first pair of skis then, or have you skied before?
Yeah. So I mean, when I moved to Norway originally in 2017, right?
Yeah.
And actually, I shout out to Simon and Auden, good friends of mine, who took me on my first ever cross country ski trip, where I borrowed, I think, Auden's mum's mountain skis, like with edges, and you know, and we arrived at the cabin, but it was the kind of cabin where you park and you have to get to the cabin.
Yeah.
You know, so we parked. It's like, you know, midnight, pitch black, and we're carrying like boxes of wine, you know, on skis to the cabin for the first time. So no, I'd not really tried skiing properly. Never athletically, never more than a couple of times. In Marka, hit the tour, get the waffle, take the photo. Yeah. That's good for winter, right? Yeah. You can relate, right? Yeah. You know, and that was really my experience. So I didn't really have much real experience on skis. I'd never had a lesson. No. I'd never been out on a trip and like really honestly enjoyed it, because I wasn't just stumbling and falling and you know, injuring myself. So when I started 2 years ago, really, it was pretty much from the beginning, basically, back to basics.
Yeah. How did you find your coach?
So the Mexican guy was my coach for the first season, to be honest, so because he is actually a personal trainer, right? So he has this knowledge from that world. He just started like a year and a half before me at skiing. So actually often the best teachers are those who aren't necessarily the gurus, but are someone who's 1 or 2, 3 steps ahead. So I mean, it's a good parallel for entrepreneurship. Find people around you to support you. Other entrepreneurs who are 1, 2, 3 years ahead. Yeah, it's great having advisors who've been there, done it, but they also, having someone who's around you and a step ahead can communicate to you at your level easier. Right. So I had Alan, who was, he'd fallen over there last week. So he's like, hey, FYI, just do this, put your body weight this way. Right. Yeah. So he was my coach at first. And then I reached out to Holmenkollen Training Lab, which is the place to learn to ski. They've got ski courses and lots of coaches. Yeah. And that's where I met Ragnar, who is the guy. He's the guy, and he owns the club and things like that. He was extremely busy, so I only started to see him very, very infrequently before he hired Ula, and then Ula became my coach full time, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, it's just the Mexican guy is probably very skilled, but it's just interesting to have a Mexican
cross-country ski coach.
Cross-country ski coach. It's like a Norwegian teaching you how to cricket or play cricket.
It's like a good parallel. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. So then you start to train seriously. And do you go on roller ski and these types of things, or
I've got the scars to prove it?
Yeah,
roller skiing. It's the sketchiest thing in the world.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I agree. So scary.
No brakes on the concrete. I started out obviously on snow because I started in January 2023. Yeah, and did that season, did Birken, did the sort of the notch of the belt, welcome to the ski community type things and races. Started to roller ski a little bit that summer, but I was terrified of it. Yeah, absolutely terrified of it. And then next season really got into it. But yeah, that's sort of in summer you have to do a lot of the work for winter. Yeah. And then because you're racing all winter, right? So you need to sort of get your cardiovascular system trained to start the season at a high. Otherwise, if you're racing every weekend, you can't be training hard in the week because you need to recover. Yeah. But tell me, when you start to train, what's a typical week of training looks like for you? So there's no such thing as a typical week, really, because you do it in training blocks. Yeah. Right. I mean, to parallel it to the startup world, you do it in sprints. Yeah. Right. So you have your kind of 3 to 5 week block, which is say a volume block, right? So where you're doing volume training at low intensity to build the aerobic cardiovascular system, right? That's sort of getting your body more efficient, being able to take more volume at lower intensity. Yeah. And I do some of that cycling, I do some of that running. In the ski season, obviously, it'd be longer ski sessions, 90 minutes to 3 hours. So the average week, I think, is anything from 12 to 18 hours of training. Yeah. Which maybe doesn't sound that much, but when you add in the fatigue you get from it and all the preparation involved, because cross country skiing isn't just running out the door. Yeah, you got to get skis waxed and prepped and clothing and washed and clean. It's so much stuff to do, right? Yeah. So an average week would be, if I'm in an intensity block, would be like 3 intervals a week. Yeah. Double sessions, so like morning and afternoon sometimes. I'll have maybe 1 strength session a week, just sort of conditioning, mobility and all that kind of stuff. And, you'll have a couple of longer sessions, right? So distributed throughout the week with typically when I'm in the season, not many rest days. If I'm going to have a rest day, it's every 10 days or so. And right now I'm off season. So I'm in a, kind of a more chilled block. So it's lower. I'm doing 10 hours, 12 hours max a week. A week. Yeah. And that's lower intensity with a rest day. Yeah. Right. So, I'm training for 6 days out of 7, basically. Yeah. So it's, but it sounds, it's a lot of, that's 10 hours training, and in the high season or the big blocks, it's the big blocks, up to 18 plus, 18 plus. 20 plus, 25 hours, and things like that. If you're doing longer sessions and stuff like that. 18 hours a week. Then you have also, preparations in advance, and then you have, getting all the clothes, and it's a lot of hours you use on this. Do you work? I do. You do? How do you think I pay for the whole thing? That's what I'm wondering. How do you pay for this? Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of that. If you can subscribe to my OnlyFans right now, that would be really helpful. I mean, I started this episode with a button undone. So let's give you a little preview. We got to keep it going down. Stian's he's been a subscriber from the beginning. Biggest backer. So I'm a big believer in life design. Design a life you want to live, and live a life designed by you. Yeah. right? And I know it sounds easier said than done, but I'll explain a little bit of how I've approached this to design the life that I want to live and live the life designed by me. So, you know, in the many things I've done in my life, public speaking is something that I do, right? I speak at some of the biggest tech conferences in the world. I'm a host at some of the biggest tech conferences in the world. And that allows me, that is my job, right? That allows me to train 80% of my time because that job, you know, I'll go away. We can talk. You got numbers on the show, right? Yeah. Let's do that. So, you know, public speaking is awesome because you get day rates, right? You know, like so I'll go to an event and get $10,000 to $20,000 for a show, or like to be there for a day or two, or whatever it is, which allows me then to fund the thing that I'm doing if I do 2-3 things a month, right? Yeah. So that's really what's that's how I funded this the last 2 years. It took me 10 years to get to that level. Bear in mind that I've been growing as a side hustle, basically. But I went full-time 2 years ago in public speaking. And, you know, now I speak to some of the biggest crowds in the world and I talk on specific topics, but I also then host or do these shows. So I've designed a life that I can be a pretty much full-time athlete, but also fund all of that and make enough money to live the lifestyle I want to live on top of that. So yeah, that's how I fund the whole thing, basically.
That's very impressive. I did not a lot of public speaking, but I've done some public speaking, and that's we talked about the cases we have in the company and stuff when we had really good cases. And every time we have a new case, the public speaking goes a bit up because people want to hear about it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That's that's sometimes it's very good money. But I've never done 20. The top I got paid for an hour was $5,000.
Yeah,
that was but it still you know took me a day. But then you go speak 1 hour, $5,000 in the bag, and then home. And if you do 20, that's very impressive.
It's taken time to get to the level I'm at now. But one thing I've learned is my kind of core values are to educate, to entertain. And I'm adding the third one now, which is to inspire. Right? I think that's what my ski journey has done. You know, I still feel a little bit reluctant to admit that because it feels strange to say, you know, that. But for me, I've always been about educating and entertaining people. That's really my authentic value that I want to add. So when I had the tech thing going, I did that there through media things. Now that's just packaged in the skiing thing, right? And so I add this inspire aspect to that. So yeah, that's sort of been my core brand values, if you will, as an individual.
Yeah. What's typical conferences you go to?
So, I mean, this year I'm doing London Tech Week again this year. So, you know, it's like a huge, big 3-day event in London, Olympia, with like 150,000 people. And biggest stage I've ever done is about 12,000 people, you know. And,
impressive.
You know, like the next web in Amsterdam I've done. I just got back from doing, it's branded as the biggest tech event in the world right now by attendees, 210,000 people over 4 days. It's the new South by Southwest in the East. So it's called Leap in Saudi Arabia. And I got 25,000 for that, for example, right? You know, so
Saudis get cash. Cash.
So it's, you know, it's, you know, I definitely urge more people to get into public speaking and things like that. Obviously, you need to be able to speak about a topic and you need to have something to share, of course, caveat. But a lot of what I've done as well is also help people to become better speakers, better communicators. So I have a top 10 YouTube channel on the topic. Global, you type in pitch deck or how to pitch your startup on Google, and I'm top 10 videos, right?
Okay, impressive.
On YouTube. So yeah, that's so I have a portfolio of assets around me, basically books, YouTube, public speaking, and other things like that, which have allowed me to do what I do today. Yeah,
because if you're top 10 video on those topics, you make ad revenue on that.
You do? Yeah. But not as much as you think.
I believe it, because we're making ad revenue on this podcast and it's not as much as you think.
Yeah.
It's quite below.
Yeah. It's and you don't make money from ad revenue. You make money, but you don't live off that, right? No. But it's what I've learned a lot about is it's like the long tail marketing effect.
Yeah.
So this one video, I can show you my Google, studios, right?
But I agree. It builds your brand, so you can charge more from the Saudis.
That too, right?
Yeah.
And it's like the long tail marketing effect. It sits there. That one video has made me, I think, say 5,000 euros over its lifetime. It's almost a million views.
Yeah.
But it's probably brought in 1 million in NOK of speaking gigs in 50K here and this there, and people want me to come in and talk about the topic of that video. Yeah. So it's sort of it's a little gold mine hiding in plain sight. You would think, oh yeah, I made 5,000 euros from the videos, ads. Yeah, but times that by 20 in terms of what you can make from the actual income from the video through other things. Right? Yeah. So it's a nice long tail marketing effect.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, that's very smart. Do you have other side hustles?
So my business of me is sort of split into different areas, right? So it's, if you think about sort of in terms of absolute numbers of income, it's hosting.
Yeah.
That's like been my bread and butter. Then it's speaking at events and things like that. Then underneath that,
when you say hosting, then it's you're a presenter for an
MC, master of ceremony. I'm flying to Brussels tomorrow to do the biggest show for the European Commission, the EIC Innovation Summit, basically, yearly thing, right? So that's a 2-day event, for example.
Yeah, you're a fast talker. I can believe you are an amazing presenter.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But it's practice, right, as well. This exposure therapy is the only way. Anyone can be a better speaker. And 10x, their authentic version, if they I can give you some tips if you like.
Yeah.
And then I have, then I have the media stuff, like the YouTube, for example, which then brings in stuff like that, right? I do workshops and lectures as well. So from the startup world, I'm a regular kind of advisor and lecturer for different accelerators like Catapult, the Factory in Oslo, and elsewhere around the world, where I will coach the batch of startups that they have going through their accelerator on how to, I call it, sell your story. How to pitch your business better, how to present yourself in a more authentic and engaging way to interest and intrigue people, whether it's raising money or it's sales or whatever, right? So that's just me being me and sharing how I did it when I was an entrepreneur with entrepreneurs. I also do that for corporates. I've been into the Norsk Hydros and I've spoken to 50 to 150 middle management about communication and how to be a better communicator, and which is very relevant in the context of the Nordic environment with Jantelagen and other things. So that goes down quite well. And then I have a podcast with Ernst & Young, the consulting company in the US, in its 3rd season. So these are all just sort of in descending order of value to me, my revenue streams. I also have a book and other things like that. People also book me for one-on-ones occasionally, right? So that's how it's spread out. Basically, that's my revenue portfolio for myself, my blended income streams.
And now a growing income stream is sponsorships for the ski commitment.
Line up. I would love to speak to you. What's your logo here?
Well, you don't have logos yet, right?
I have two. I have the two
you have the
logos.
two, but none on the chest.
Nothing. Well, you wear a bib, so you can't actually have any logos in there. So if I were to sell a logo in there, that would be total scam because you put a bib on straight away and then it's covered, right? So
what's the best placement, do you think?
So I think if you think about the cameras, and it's probably the thigh. Because the arms are moving the most, the legs, in terms of they don't get blurry or move. So it's the thigh, and I have big thighs, so a lot of marketing space.
Maybe. I think I always thought like if they wear a hat,
fair play. But you always have your flag here on the hat, and then I've kind of feel depending on the weather, you wear a bandana or a hat and stuff like that. So I would say the thigh, to be honest, because it's the most visible, I think.
Yeah, maybe it gets most airtime as well. So now we're heading into we're gonna circle back a bit on the let's do the entrepreneur stuff first.
Sure.
You fly to you move to London and then you work in venture capital.
Correct.
And you raise money at a staggering amount. Tell us about your money adventure in London.
That's an interesting one. But I can't talk about it publicly, I'm afraid. No,
you can't.
I'm just joking.
That's okay.
Teaser alert. No. So I was very fortunate because I started my world into entrepreneurship the best way on the buy side. So I went from my master's at Cass Business School, where I studied with a bunch of Norwegians, and went into venture capital. Now, venture capital is investing in tech companies, right? Different numbers, from you can be an early stage investor to a growth stage investor. So I was a growth stage investor, and I probably worked for the coolest venture capital fund, and I probably had the coolest venture capital job in London, to be honest, because the fund that I worked for wasn't some boring management company of assets, but it was the company that owned Vogue magazine. So I invested Vogue magazine's money in tech, right?
That's cool.
Putting it plain and simple, but actually I work for Condé Nast, which is the media company that owns Vogue, Brides, GQ, and 120 other magazine titles around the world.
Wow.
Right? Old media, New York owned, big fat rich family.
How did you get this job?
It's actually a fun story. So I was, finishing my master's, and I pursued finance as an education, for want of a better description, because my dad did, because my dad's friends did, and I was exposed to that kind of culture, and I was ambitious, and I wanted to be successful and make money, and I was like, oh, look at all these guys around me as father figures who are doing that. That's where I should go. Do I like it? Nope. Am I interested in it? Nope. But I was influenced. And I think many, maybe young men and women can relate to that. You sort of, you're a product of your environment, right?
Yeah.
So I do 2 degrees, somehow scrape through in finance. And then I'm about to go into the world of work, and everyone's applying for jobs at banks. I mean, right? So I look into that, and I think, hey, listen, as a final Hail Mary before I accept this job offer at Morgan Stanley that I kind of had going, I was like, I've always liked fashion. And I knew GQ magazine. So I thought, last chance saloon. I'm just going to go on GQ's website and go on careers and see if there's anything in like the finance department or something, whatever. So I go on their job, their careers page at gq.com, and then it forwards me to Condé Nast. I don't know who the hell Condé Nast is. It's the parent company that owns them. And you'd imagine every job is like editor, stylist. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, investment analyst pops up. Yeah. And I'm like 22 years old, right? And I'm like, I look at the job and I was like, this sounds like a private equity venture job. Yeah. So I apply. Now, normally the way to get into venture capital is you go to like Goldman Sachs, you go to Oxford or Cambridge, you're super smart people, right? Yeah. I wouldn't stand a chance. But fortunately, this job was hidden in all these no one who actually had those credentials was looking on a men's fashion website to get a job in finance. Yeah. So obviously no one found the job. So I was probably the only person who applied. I applied to the job. They jumped on it because they've been looking for ages. Like, no wonder no one found that job. I got the job basically, right? So I started in Condé Nast investing in fashion tech and digital media companies in London in 2012 or something like that.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Super cool.
What did you make?
What did we make?
Yeah, money-wise.
Money-wise. Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah. So that was my first ever job. I made £36,000 a year. So it's like 400,000. I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad compared to the Norwegian sense. It's nothing, but that was, I think at the time most analysts in London were getting around 40k, like 35 to 40k. Yeah. So that was not a banking job, but it was so I got £36,000, which was decent. I was in the higher end of my earners of my friends graduating. Yeah. With a bonus and all that kind of stuff, right? But that was my first salary, £36,000 a year. I remember exactly. Yeah.
And this is 2014?
2012.
2012?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good.
I was happy with it, Still spent more every month, but that's the life lesson you learn as a young adult, Yeah. Credit cards aren't the solution, but yeah.
And then you go chase for opportunities.
Correct.
To invest in.
So yeah, it was venture capital is such a cool way to enter the world because of tech, because you're on the buy side. So people are pitching you. Yeah. Which is amazing because you are the one who are in the power seat because you can, advise, your board to invest in companies, right? So you're on the buy side, which is the best side to be on because you're the one getting pitched. You're meeting entrepreneurs, pitching you. So I learned a lot about, the world of entrepreneurship from the buy side, sitting on the other side of the table, right? Which was an amazing experience. Amazing experience. I met so many incredible entrepreneurs, started to understand how best to pitch a business, which later in life would serve me very well, right? What are investors really looking for? What are they kind of, what connects? Yeah. Especially when you see so many. So I did that for 2 years or so. We invested about $50 million of the $200 million we'd been sort of earmarked to invest. Yeah. And I was very fortunate that 2 of those companies became unicorns within that time frame. So they were worth over $1 billion and went on to be worth $27 billion in total.
Wow. Yeah. Impressive. What's the 3 best tips for people looking for investment?
Ask yourself this question. What is the opportunity that I'm selling?
Money.
It could be that. It can be a financial opportunity, right? Yeah. But a lot of people go in there to tell your story. Hey, Stian, so we're at university together and we thought we could do cups better. So we designed this amazing 3D printed cup that's sustainable and saves the world. I'm like, yeah, that's all really good. You're telling me about what you're doing, but you're not selling me this thing. Sell me your story. Yeah. Sell me that, hey, listen, tell me a story around what you're doing that makes me emotionally involved. So that's the number one. Yeah. Understand what is the story you're selling. What's the opportunity you're trying to present to that person? Is it financial? Is it like a first mover opportunity? Are you trying to get them to feel that you're the next Facebook or the next Klarna or whatever? Second thing, EPM. Do you know what that stands for?
No.
Emotion per minute.
Yeah.
When you're pitching and presenting in front of someone, a table much like this, I want to take you on an emotive journey. I want you to feel something from me. And it could be opportunity. It could be pain of the problem that I'm trying to solve. It can be, excitement for the solution I'm presenting to you, right? So EPM, emotion per minute, so important. Lastly, authenticity.
Yeah.
Right? I have this all the time, especially in the Nordics, when I meet entrepreneurs who want to be a better presenter and sell their story better. and they go and copy me.
Yeah.
That's not authentic. So you need to find where you are on I call it the communication spectrum, right? Most of us operate in a very short range. Facial expression wise, we're not very animated about how we tell stories and engage with people, right? So it's really important to understand, where is where are you on the range of things when it comes to communication, right? And I think, a lot of people can do a lot by simply getting your phone and recording yourself and do two things. Watch it back on mute. See how you physically talk and describe something. It can be your startup you're pitching, for example.
Yeah.
Secondly, unmute it, play it, and close your eyes. Now listen to yourself. How are you verbally communicating this thing? So three simple things you can do. What is the opportunity you're selling? EPM, and get some self-awareness of how you come across to others to be a better communicator. Super simple.
3 good tips. I like it. I'm going to use it next time I need money. Oh, it's then you do these investments. Yeah. You do 2 unicorns, which makes your hit rate pretty good.
Yep.
And then
that's why I quit.
That's why you quit. A success, and then we're out.
Cool, you're
give gissa på top, give on top. I don't know what. Give all on top. But
the direct translation. In English, in Norwegian English.
Close to. But you have a different startup stuff. But you have one really cool one that you exit in Norway. Tell us about that.
So yeah, I was part of 4 different businesses, raised about $20 million in total. 2 exits, 2 failures. My last exit, my last success was the Lunicorn, which is a startup I founded here in 2018, I think. And it was a cool startup journey because, founded that business because I had an itch I needed to scratch, which is, I think, a good way to start, kind of, because you're going to be driven to itch that, scratch that itch. Yeah. And it was a media business that was inspired by the fact that mobile in 2018 took over all other operating systems as the number 1 channel we consumed digital content on, right? Yet 97% of all online content was not created for mobile. Yeah. So there was this mismatch there, right? So I saw an opportunity to create a mobile media brand that both created content for others and things like that as a studio, but specifically actually had its own platform, which we would, have user-generated content and kind of Snapchat inspired, etc. But about news and about topics and things like that. Yeah. And so I founded that business. I raised some money for that business, hired some people, and we were successful for a decent amount of time. We started to make money. The runway, for those who understand what I mean by that, the money you have in the bank that will last you for how long, was extending. Yeah. I had great investors on board, and then COVID happened. Yeah. Right. And that was an interesting time because we were in sort of this online digital space, and COVID happened, and one of our 3rd largest investors saw it as an opportunity to acquire us, because they wouldn't have any competition. Yep. And so they acquired us over that summer. I started working with them. And the cool thing was I got to announce the acquisition of that business on my 30th birthday in 2020.
Sick.
That was very cool.
That's
Special
cool.
moment.
So you sold the entire business?
I sold the entire business.
Yeah. What was your stake?
My stake was 72%.
72%? Big one. How much did you sell it for?
Have a guess.
I have no clue.
Let us know in the comments.
$3 million.
$3 million. I mean, that's not a bad guess. So when you sell a business, there are different ways to sell a business, right? Yeah. There is straight up cash for equity, as in like they literally pay you for the share price and give you a bunch of cash. You can do a share swap, where you swap your shares for a percentage of theirs. Obviously, theirs is bigger and better, so you maybe get 1, 2, 5, 10% of their business. So just straight share swap. And there's also just different metrics you can do this, like, so I did a share swap.
Oh, you did?
So there was a
straight or hybrid with the cash on the side?
So there was a cash component, but that was actually for me to join them, because typically when you sell a business as well, very rarely that you just get the money and like right off into the sunshine. Yeah. You have a thing called an earnout. Yeah. Right? Where you join the new company that's bought you for anything from 1 year to 5 years. The average is 3. I had a 3-year earnout, which meant that I would get, after 6 months, there's a cliff. Like after 6 months, you start to get, every 6 months or year, a percentage of what you're getting, basically, be it financial or just shares, right? Yeah. So mine was mostly a share swap. So we swapped my share ownership for 5% of their business. They had a 20 million annual recurring revenue business at the time. So they were very successful and doing very well. We swapped into 5% of the business there. Yep. And I had a salary attached to that.
Okay.
So, which was a generous salary, and I joined them for only 9 months, and then we renegotiated, and I took the business back.
Okay.
Which is something you don't hear about. I went through, within a year, an acquisition and a reverse acquisition.
Yeah. Why?
Because, in credit to the founders of this company, Attender it's called, and 2 Norwegian guys, Eric and Andreas, the lovely guys. We were friends. They invested in my business before.
Yeah.
Right? So they believed in me, and they wanted to acquire me to bring me into their business, with the goal of me taking a media angle of their business, right? But plans change.
Yeah.
Within that year of that acquisition happening, their business took off in a different business area. They needed to put all resources into that. And I was there, hired in, or I was hired in effectively, right?
Yeah.
To run this new division, which was my old company, brought into theirs. And then they were like, listen, we need to go full steam here. Matt, they could have done one thing, which financially and contractually they were allowed to do. They could have said, listen, Matt, we own you for the next 3 years. You're going to now become the CMO of our business and move to Malaga, Spain. Or we were friends. We can be amicable about this. We don't want to hold you against your will, effectively.
Yeah.
We can just renegotiate the deal.
Yeah.
And you can get out now. All the money you've been paid, sunk cost for us. You get the shares back and all this kind of stuff, right? Yeah. And so I'm like really good businessmen. Really appreciate them there, because they could have easily said, listen, Matt, you're ours now. You're going there, and you got 2.5 years left, and I didn't want to do that. Right. So they said, listen, let's renegotiate. Let's redo it. So we renegotiated, and I took the business back.
That's fair.
Within a year.
Yeah. Very fair. Oh, I love that we started this media company in 2015, so we were a bit early, but our entire philosophy was that we need to make social media content that's made for cell phones.
Yeah.
This is the way it's going.
Mobile first.
And we saw all the other guys that were making TV commercials that they were just forcing into the phone, and it's not it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So it's not an optimal situation. So you get out of this with the company. How's the story continuing?
So the story continued that, I had this exit event, and I left Norway, and I was living in Barcelona at the time. Yeah. And afterwards I took a bit of time off, actually, so I
sold the company after.
I sold the company, and then
the second time.
No, I didn't say no, not a second time. No. So I sold it the first time.
Yeah.
Worked with them for 9 months doing this new thing and this new projects and things like that.
Yeah.
And then took it back.
Yeah.
And basically then, I had some money to chill for a bit, and I decided to pursue. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. I didn't want to jump straight back into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I needed a bit of a rest from it.
Yeah.
And so I started to just carry on with YouTube, because I'd been doing YouTube then with them as well. And YouTube was going well for me, right? So I kind of spent the next 6 months in Lisbon. I was nomading for 2 years, basically, right?
Cool.
And I did Lisbon for 6 months. Then I did Cape Town for 9 months. Yeah. And I got into the sports then, right? I decided to do an Ironman in 120 days, like just signed up for a full distance Ironman, 120 days to train. Yeah. So that's when I first started to do this kind of hybrid life, where I spent 80% of my time dedicated to sports, and 20% of my time making the money to pay for all of that, right? Yeah. So that's when I sort of started to create this lifestyle that I wanted to live with and through. And at this point, I'm still doing public speaking engagements, which pays for things, and I'm hosting and speaking and workshopping and podcasting. But this stuff is 20% of my time, right? Yeah. It's 10 hours a week, basically, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But what happened with the company? Does it run by itself?
No. So I took it back.
Yeah.
Said to my investors, hey, listen, I'm going to think about what to do next with it, basically. Yeah. And I've actually just literally this last week closed both of those companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So close it down.
Just close them down.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been I've wanted to do more with it and things like that, but it's also like I think about life in chapters, right? There is chapters where you're doing certain things. A lot of people are afraid to start new chapters in their life, so they stay in the same chapter for too long, or don't start a new chapter or whatever. But I think one thing I've been quite good at in life is that I'm very good at closing the chapter and starting a new one if I want.
Cool.
So I decided to close the chapter on that one and say, listen, we had a great run. Yeah. We had an exit. Then we got a slightly strange thing where we got reverse exit. Yeah. And so I close those companies now.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So then you go into the Ironman, and then you need to obviously make a lot of money in a very short time. You got to spend a lot. You got to earn a lot of money for very little time a week.
Sure.
possibly.
And that's why, I've I think there have been a few interesting parallels and sayings around this, but I describe myself as a lazy person, which might sound strange because I've just qualified for the Olympics and, I am an elite athlete, right? Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean lazy? I said, I'm not lazy in the sense like I don't train or something like that. But I always try to find the fastest and easiest way to do something for the most amount of money. Yeah. Basically, that's been a red thread throughout my life. Yeah. To be honest with you, I've always tried to find, the smartest way, working smart, not necessarily hard. Yeah. And there are periods when I've worked extremely hard and there's periods where I haven't. But I've tried to find this perfect balance of sort of return and input, right? Yeah. So I think public speaking is a great one right now in my life with that because it's well rewarded. You get paid quite well. Yeah. And it's for time in. But obviously, caveat, there's a decade of work and things that have gone into me becoming able to talk about these topics, right? So of course you could explain it the other way. But that's something I would describe myself as a lazy person, which I think has been a good thing. Yeah.
Oh, I agree. It's like water. Yeah, the path of least resistance, but it still takes the road.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. What do you think you've spent the most amount of time and energy on with the least amount of payback? Or
least amount of payback?
Yes. What's the worst you've spent your time on? And a lot of effort.
That's a good question. I mean, I think relationships. No, I'm just kidding. I'm engaged. I'm just teasing. Okay, that's a good question. The least. I mean, the reality is obviously a lot of. I wouldn't say it was the least because I think there's a lot of investment you have to do, right? Yeah. So upfront investment for later reward, right? So when you're studying or when you're going through, like when I was studying, I did 2 degrees, right? And I don't work in finance, right? I didn't utilize that. So that was a lot of work for no reward. But at the same time, I think the people I met, the frameworks I maybe learned subconsciously have been extremely rewarding. Yeah. So whilst they weren't financially necessarily rewarding, they were that. But I have one for you. I think I was given some great advice by a guy called Solheim, who is a very successful influencer in Dubai. He built a football club in 365 days. Okay. And he said to me, Matt, don't create content, document. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, and me in the past, could focus on making such an amazing video for YouTube, green screen, animations, time, money, lights, cameras, and then it flops. Yeah. Because people just want amateur content on YouTube. Yeah. So you can put a lot of time and energy and money into something and then get nothing out of it when actually in reality, people just want to, on YouTube, they just want, it's an amateur platform. It's not the BBC. Yeah. So don't go and create NRK quality content. It's great if you do and people like it. Sure, there's a niche for that. But in general, it's like, I think a lot of people focus on, I'll start a podcast when I get a table and I get a mic and I get the lights and the cameras and I build a room in my house or I go and rent a space, and then they go and do the podcast and give up after 4 episodes or something, right? Yeah. When in fact, it's actually, you could start on your phone with a little plug-in mic and just sort of talk to camera. Oh. The reality is, I spent a lot of time overdoing things and overproducing things. We just have to get started with what you have. Yeah. And it's going to be better for the story later down the line when you look back on where you started with what you started and then with what you have now.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think a lot of people just, they spend so much with the thing you said off podcast as well. They have so big offices, so nice offices, and they're just like spending so much money on this stuff that's not really making a difference. But this is what I love. The first, my wife had seen you on NRK, and she was like, "This guy is really handsome. You got to talk to him."
His wife's also my ex-girlfriend, by the way. Wouldn't want to be staying right now. She's not. But
I saw you on Instagram first, and I just love the simplicity of your videos. It's just straightforward, and it's just entertainment right off the bat. And it's
say that one more time on camera. You love what?
Yeah, I love your videos on Instagram. No, they're not overproduced. Yeah. It's just you trying to do these things, and then you go to the after ski in VM, and then you just you're just roaming around and just documenting what you do.
And that's how you do it in the moment. Honestly, I want to take that as an example because that was great advice Solheim gave me, which was, Yes, I will create some videos sometimes where a lot of pre-thought goes into it, and I've filmed scenes and all that kind of stuff, right? And I bring my Sony A7, like my big fancy camera, and I put mics on people and stuff, right? There's a time and place for that. You need to have a blended portfolio of content. But for me, I've realized that documenting is the best way, because when I go to edit it, although I am looking to hire someone right now, so if that's you, let me know. But when I go to edit it, it's all filmed in the order that I filmed it. Like, so it's in the order I want to edit it. So it's quicker and it's smoother. And the reality is that's more authentic. If you just produce stuff, sometimes it looks a bit rough and ready. And sometimes it doesn't do as well. But in general, I find that, content that is organic and authentic in the moment it performs the best. Sometimes the best videos I've done, I've thought about in the moment. Filmed, bad lighting, no mics, and they've got me at 1.2 million views.
But that's the thing is, I think a lot of people, but this was, I felt like I saw a shift in 2016, 2017, that, the quality on Instagram, it was a lot of photos then, but, it was just better and better and better, and like super edited, and it was just like this amazing dream world. And then I felt like it just shifted back. So what's the value in the content? And this is what we try to do our best with our clients as well. But what's the value? And it's not in the production. It's what you communicate, and it's what the content is about. That's where people derive value from it. It's not that we use insane cameras or it looks perfect, because now in 2025, if it looks too perfect from a brand, it's automatically perceived as commercial.
Exactly.
And then it's sort of like, it was a phenomenon, I read a study about it. It was a banner blocking or a banner blindness, I think it was. So if you go on VG or another newspaper online, you automatically, you couldn't tell me some of the ads. You couldn't almost tell me any of the ads, because your brain is trained to don't look at them, because there are banners and there are ads and they are not interesting. So you're just tapping the highlights. And this is what I feel like happened with the social media and content as well. It was, people got used to seeing it, and then they know it's a commercial and it doesn't give me value. So we're gonna eliminate it from our brain. So now we have to go the other way, not to trick people, but we have to provide value. So if we work with a company, we have to, what will Matt look at this content? Why will he perceive that this is valuable information for him? Is it entertaining? Is it educating? Is it inspiring? What do we do how do we tickle Matt's pickle?
How do we tickle my pickle? What way to put it.
But that's the question we got to ask ourselves, and that's what we got to answer. And the production quality is not going to be the answer to that question. That there's other factors, and that's I think you hit it on the nail on the head, or whatever you want to call it, on these videos that you're making now. People are committed to your story. That's the thing. I want to see Matt in the Olympics now, and see how he goes in Italy. And maybe he get drunk while he's skiing. I don't know. Everything can happen here. That's how. And then you're doing a really good job. That's what that's bottom line, I would say.
Thank you.
I think you're gonna be, how much followers you have now?
I've got to 11,000 now on Insta, 20,000 on YouTube.
Put a zero behind it.
Yeah.
That's where we're going with, if you keep it up with this.
Appreciate
it. Probably 2 zeros as well, because eventually, so I've spoken with Pinero, Lucas Broughton about this. He's just a brief chat with him, but I said that Brazil, if you get the country behind you, and same with you, if you can tap into South Africa,
which I haven't yet, by the way.
No, but it's probably gonna happen at some point when you get enough traction. But Brazil is the #1 country in the world for engagement on social media. They are the #1. So, and it's like 260 million people in Brazil. So if he just, we have I don't know if you have the expression in South Africa or in America, but it's big in Japan.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you heard about it.
I've heard about it, yeah.
But this applies to big in Brazil. And if you're big in Brazil, it's game over. You can be big in Brazil and not big anywhere else, and it's you are set for life, and your entire family is set for life. It's game over financially and everything. So if he is and he's starting on that journey now, I feel, and probably I haven't seen his stats, but probably his Brazilian fan base is just like.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
So, and this is a selfish question because it's about me.
No worries.
So I'm at the point now where I have 20,000 subs on YouTube.
Yeah.
10, about to hit 11 on Insta. That's actually literally all grown in the last couple of months, right? Since the VM and things like that. So, and is still YouTube a good place to grow an audience?
I think so, but it's harder, and it's a different game than Instagram and TikTok. But it's still good. But yeah, the demands are higher to grow on YouTube. But I still think it's a very solid platform. If you're TikTok famous, which is now regular famous as well. But if you get TikTok famous, you can sort of like blow away. If you get YouTube famous, it's gonna stay.
Yeah,
that's gonna be sustainable for many, many years. So I would not use YouTube to penetrate the celebrity status, or I would use TikTok and Instagram to penetrate it and then source people over.
Because I mean, the old model was community. It's content, community, commerce. Have you heard this? The three C's, right? Create content, build a community, monetize that community. That was sort of the tried and tested way. And I mean, it works today, right? People monetize in different ways. But I've kind of, Instagram is like, I think, our generation a bit, right? All the younger on TikTok, I find people don't follow, but they like. My following isn't big; it's like 2,000 on there, but I have so many likes and views on videos. I just don't follow. I don't know if that's sort of a hurdle, or maybe I'm not putting the right forward thing there. So I question: is TikTok the place to build? Like you said, it's here today, gone tomorrow, right? But YouTube is more robust.
Yeah, but I think TikTok is the way to go for you as well, because the follower, the exact number that's on your, it's not going to be as valuable as it was 5 years ago or 4 years ago before COVID. Then it was really valuable, and it's still kind of valuable on Instagram especially. But on TikTok, you're going to have, I don't know, this is a hypothesis from us, but this is what we feel like. You have a ghost following, or whatever you want to call it, because you have a lot of views on your videos, and then your following number might be 1,000 people, but your ghost following mode, which is like TikTok's impressions of your following, it's maybe 10,000 people. So we're gonna regularly push Matt's content to these 10,000 people, because they have liked the videos. So you're gonna have like two separate following bases, more or less, which is like TikTok's algorithms impressions of how good your content is.
That's super interesting, your ghost following, because that makes sense. Because the more and more I go out skiing, or I have this group of kids who always come up to me and say, I follow you on TikTok, or I've seen you on TikTok. I've seen you on TikTok, I get quite often, and I'm like, why don't you follow me? No, I didn't say that, but I'm like, well, thank you, amazing that take a photo or whatever, right? But I have like 10x the audience on Instagram, but people don't as much. I was curious, like, what is this TikTok mindset where people, they're like peeping toms. They watch, but they don't, you know they're watching, So they're sort of just, they're a ghost following, as you said. Interesting. Okay, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, but also it doesn't really matter, because that on TikTok, every video is like, sort of like its own impression as well, because
it's like its own asset.
It's like, is it going good? It's going good. If it's going bad, it's going bad. On Instagram, you're gonna have, you probably have a set following on TikTok, and your ghost following, or whatever you want to call it, is way bigger. And for a lot of people, it's the other way around. They have a huge following on Instagram, and the real amount of people that sees their content is very small. And this is usually because they've been big for a long time, and then, they're eventually, a lot of people fall off the algorithm and don't see their content anymore, although they still follow. So
do you get penalized for stopping your routine? Daily, I've been posting daily, right?
Yeah, not penalized. I wouldn't say it, but it's, we signed a new client now. And we're gonna, in 1 year, we're gonna produce 730 videos for them, and it's just, we're just gonna be a fucking freight train, So it's not, I don't know. I would love to say that the consistency is good, and it is good, but I wouldn't say that if we don't post one day, the train's off the rails here. But you shouldn't. It shouldn't be too long of a time, and also, to stay always on, it's good. It's very good. So I would say the upside of being always on and having a very consistent push, it's very positive. But I wouldn't say you miss one time or you miss 1 week and then you're out. It's not happening like this. But if you stay out for a long time, then it's bad. It's definitely bad. Then you have to rev up the engine again.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So that's but this is all our experience from our other accounts and stuff. So I don't know if this is the truth. This is what we feel.
You guys are the gurus.
I don't know. We have it's like working with an invisible ghost. We're always and the ghost changes all the time because the algorithms, and then it's Facebook and then it's Meta, and then you have Snapchat and TikTok, and the Chinese are here, and where are we going? So it's like you're in the dark feeling your way. But I think we have sort of like a good we built about 6 million followers on Instagram for different like travel accounts and stuff, so from scratch. And it's been
what's your biggest lesson from building 6 million following?
I would say consistency.
Literally,
I would say consistency on Midt Norge, which is like it's not our biggest account now, but we have about 500,000 followers on it, a bit above that. But people, how do you get so many followers? It's like we posted every single day for 8 years straight. 8 years straight, and a lot of years we posted multiple times a day. So it's just if you do these types of volume, maybe it's like training. Some of the posts are gonna go horrible, and some of the posts are gonna go viral because we're just posting and then we're iterating as good as we can. So we're trying to analyze, why did this post go absolutely viral? Why did this post go trash? And then we try to guess and then just iterate our way through the storm, whatever you want to call it.
You make a nice point there about, which is actually the topic of my new talk, which is 0 to Olympian in 2 years, and how to set unimaginable goals and actually achieve them.
Yeah.
Right? Every big goal and every big thing you want to do, whether it be professional, personal, whatever, can be broken down into minutes and moments.
Yeah.
Right? So I started out 2 years ago from being zero skier with a Mexican coach, learning a Nordic sport, right?
It's a great story.
It's a great story.
It
can be broken down into 700 days roughly.
Yeah.
Right? 700 days, and every day can be broken down into a minute and a moment.
Yeah.
What was the moment that was important? What was the minute that was necessary, right? And the reality is, when you look at some weeks, they were terrible in some months.
Yeah.
But when you zoom out over the year, 7 or 6, 7, 8 of those months were great. Actually more normally, right?
Yeah.
So the great is always overweighing the bad, right? And they all contributed and compounded over time to, like you said, 8 years of posting every single day, plus got you 6 million followers.
Yeah.
People look at the 6 million followers and look at you today and think about, oh, what's the secret? And I was like, well, I mean, we've been doing this for 8 years. In my case,
insane consistency is the secret.
Just showing up every single day, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is, there are going to be days when you doubt yourself. There were times in my journey where I said to my trading partner, the Mexican coach, Alan, I said, listen, dude, you go for 2026. I'm going to go for 2030, like the Olympics. Yeah. I was giving up on the goal because I was having a bad period of for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
I also injured myself during the process. I also had a relationship during the process, so many overlying ways to derail me, but would always still show up, and that's the truth of it. Persistency is the answer to entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
People are always amazed when people make it, and some people make it in a shorter time frame. I was lucky; I built and sold a company within 2 years, and then actually got it back, right? But that was a success story in many ways, right? But the reality is, persistency is the only way.
Yeah.
I've been trying to blow up on social media for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? And there have been periods where I've actually been trying, as in, buying a ticket every day, right?
Yeah.
Buying a ticket every single day by showing up and posting or training or whatever it might be. And now, all of a sudden, with the ski journey is what's making me blow up on social media.
Yeah.
Not my entrepreneurial journey that I did before, not the talking about innovation, tech, and public speaking.
Yeah.
It's actually the skiing thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you could look at someone's life and go, these chapters they've lived, you don't know which chapter is going to be the big moment chapter, right? But if you don't start a new chapter, if you don't push through a chapter, you're never going to know.
No, I agree. So it's way easier to look back at this.
Of course, everything in hindsight.
Yeah. was a guy. He's quite young, quite a lot younger than me. But he was like, yeah, because in February we were 10 years old, and this company is not. It's not a huge company, and we run in a traditional fashion. We don't gather capital or anything like that.
How much money do you make a year? What's your top line? You can just look on Prof, but like, what's your top line?
2 years ago we did 12.5.
Oh wow!
And last year we did 10 or 11. We're around between 20 and 12.
Okay, cool. $1 million a year kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, $1 million a year.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Cheers, man. That's hard in this game.
Yeah.
Because it's quite a, fragmented market, right? There's a lot of, well, no, not a lot of, but there are man in the cameras everywhere. There's these small scale production type things, right? And then those that can actually do it at your level. So, do you celebrate that often?
So we did, but now it's more like common because we've been, I don't know if we plateaued, but we're consistent around this level, which is a decent level, and then we don't have to have too much manpower and stuff, and now we have, I feel we have great guys with Simon and Christopher, and we're like a tight operation, and we have, it's just a great setup right now, so... But yeah, we should celebrate it. But we're involved in a lot of other stuff that also is making some revenue. So it's all good.
It doesn't have to grow to be great.
No,
I like that you mentioned. We're plateauing a bit, as if like that's almost make an excuse for the fact that we should only ever grow every single year, right? I think in entrepreneurship, and there's a lot of mistruths sold, and they come from when I was a VC. We needed to see 1.5 to 5x growth year on year to realize the valuation growth, to realize our return, right? When businesses don't grow like that, right? They grow in periods reflective of the environment that they're in. And actually, sometimes you might reach, and I'll give you an example of a business that's reached sort of plateau revenue. Yeah. And I made a video on YouTube with this, right? When I interviewed the founders of One Piece. Norwegian entrepreneurs, very successful guys. They have several other businesses going that are all making even more money. But One Piece, people might think was a one-hit wonder. That was back in the 2010s or something, right? Yeah. They managed to maintain 150 kind of million revenue a year for, $10 to $20 million a year of revenue for like 15 years, basically. And they
very impressive.
Very impressive, right? I mean, it took them maybe 7-8 years to get to that level, and then they plateaued at that, had a couple of years under maybe and bounced back. But they told me one really interesting thing when they decided to sort of release control, hire a professional CEO in. And the professional CEO said to them, listen, they were like, we need to grow the business. This is a missed opportunity if we don't, right? And the professional CEO said, look, you got two options here. We go and raise external money. We're making maybe 150 million right now. We try to go make $1 billion a year, right? It's going to take us 5 years to get there. It's going to cost like 200 million in raised capital to get to $1 billion, and then we're going to be losing money, but we'll be $1 billion revenue. Or, we make 150 million a year and make a 30-40 million profit. Yeah. There's two different businesses here, right? Like there's the VC growth money, give me the money, negative cash flow, pump, grow, market capitalization, stress, valuation growth. Yeah. Or there's that, hey, or we could just become profitable and keep the plateau there, right? And I think that's something that not enough entrepreneurs are told about, that it's okay to build a business that becomes a lifestyle business, or that it's okay to have a business that makes a profit and pay yourself a dividend. Yeah. I think one thing I've learned from Norwegian culture, which we criticize, you're not the love and you're not ambitious enough. The conversation we had as we arrived, we're talking about loving being around people who go for the moon, right? And then they'll end up in the stars, right? But I think there's also something to be said about that sort of humbleness you get in Norway with this mindset of let's just build something that works. And, I don't need to have 100 million exit so I can buy 2 cabins. Yeah. Okay, maybe I'll go to Baito, not just, the Kvitfell or whatever, but it's like, what more do you really need to build? Yeah. And then what comes with that? The stress associated with that, the extra years waiting for this valuation to be realized, which might not. So anyway, I feel like there's a value to be said about, in my words, about your journey. Sometimes greatness. What did I say? I said something great. It was a good one. You'll remember. Let me know in the comments. Yeah.
No, but I agree. We were at the peak. We were 12.5 employees. Yeah. And now we're 4, and it's just, I just feel so much more relaxed, and it's just a greater. Now we can just, instead of chasing top line, we can just chase better clients, be more present with the clients, and it's and
be sustainable.
Yeah,
you don't have to grow to be great. I remembered it.
But this guy that was asking me, you run a business successfully, or whatever you want to call it, for 10 years now. You've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. Not a big, but,
No.
self-sustaining.
Yeah.
And he was like, what would you, can't you make a video with 10 tips? And I was like, I don't need 10 tips. It's just one tip. Don't give up. Just keep going, show up. And this is like the biggest lesson, I would say, that we have.
I was talking to a good friend of mine, Addy Chen, who was the CEO of Tidal, the music streaming company that he sold to. You know these guys, right? That's your old business, right? And he's a dear friend of mine. He was the chairman of my company, my first investor.
Okay,
and he's like one of my best friends, right?
Yeah, sick.
And we were talking about this, about sort of entrepreneurship and advice that's given to entrepreneurs and things like that. And I've just totally lost my train of thought.
I don't know.
What did you say a second ago?
Yeah.
What did you say a second ago about?
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Just keep going.
Yes, thank you. Don't worry, I can do this. I'm a media guy, so. And we were talking about this, and the interesting thing about it is that don't give up.
Yeah.
Persistence. I've said that, right? But a lot of people go too all in to the side hustle. And neglect the main hustle, or they make the side hustle the main hustle. If you have a main hustle, be it a job, and you want to do something entrepreneurial, don't change your main hustle, being your job that pays you, that you live off, to your side hustle until your side hustle can replace your main hustle. Yeah. Right? When I did my entrepreneurial journey, and in the last one, for example, where I paid myself like some months nothing, some months 10K, some 20, some 30, then 10, then nothing for this one. You know the drill, right?
Yeah.
I always had a side hustle, which was public speaking, which is now my main hustle and is now a multi-million a year revenue stream, right? But then it was drip feeding for a few $100K a year, but it really helped me be an entrepreneur because I had this thing that could get me, because no one wants to build a business stressing about paying the bills of their home, their flat rent, whatever it is. So I always found a way, and I think that's something that's not spoken about enough. It's entrepreneurship is advertised as like, go all in, go now, woo, and it's like, yeah, do that, but also be mindful of, okay, what do I need to live? How can I sustain a lifestyle for 5, 6, 10 months, 12 months without having to beg, steal, and borrow? Can I have something that funds me if you're going to go all into this? It's not spoken about enough, bootstrapping, some consulting on the side. All in doesn't have to mean all your time. All in can be, I'm putting my external focus outside of my main hustle all in onto this new thing for a period of time until I see some growth and success, and then I can flip the script and jump all in. And there are periods where you have to take a leap of faith, and maybe there's no certainty over 3-4 months ahead. But the truth is, through my entire entrepreneurial journey, I don't think I've ever had runway, personally or professionally, in the business for longer than a couple of months ahead.
No.
And you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then that's that sweet spot, how you can continue to go and not stop and persist.
Yeah, I agree. No, I concur. Very, very goodly.
Very
Matt,
goodly.
Very goodly. It's going to be greatly. Now, Matt, I think we have to round off. We spoke before that you have to say the stuff you're going to do. You're going to
claim it to
name it and
claim it.
Yes. 2 years ago, I ran a half marathon at 2:26.
2:26, half marathon.
A half marathon. It's not fast. Last year, I ran a marathon at 2:27. This year in September, I'm going to run a sub 2 hour marathon. So now you know.
He's named it, and I'm going to help him claim it.
September,
I'm going to go sub. We're going to go to 90. See if you think you get 90 minutes.
Well, I think that.
I'll get you there.
I feel
you're not. I mean, come on. There's no reason you won't be able to run 90 minutes.
It's a real stretch to go 27 minutes down on a half marathon. So but yeah, I'll crack it 2 hours.
You're gonna crack it. I believe in you.
That's my goal.
And I'm gonna hold you to accountability here.
I like it.
I'm gonna check in with you.
Yeah, do it. All right, Matt. What Winter Olympics 26? You're gonna participate now? You made that goal. What's your goal in the Winter Olympics? Gold?
My goal in the Winter Olympics is to beat my training partner.
The Mexican.
The Mexican, yeah. That's my goal,
Okay.
Because, I've had the goal to qualify. I've achieved that. I'm going to be there. I'm going to become an Olympian in 10 months' time, which is insane. Never dreamt at 35 years old then I would have ever done something like that. But I've also got to be realistic with my goals, and I'm never going to beat Klabo. So I've got to think about who can I realistically beat, and it's my training partner who's 1 year ahead of me. So he's beating me by seconds right now. I've caught him up.
Yeah.
And I beat him in a few times. So
You're gonna catch him.
I'm gonna catch him. I want to catch the rest of the field. Just maybe not Clubber.
You Clabos. But do you gonna do the Olympian tattoo?
Yes, I am.
I would have done it too.
Oh, and I actually need some help from everyone. Where do I get it?
I would do it here.
So I was thinking here on the chest as well, you know, kind of above the heart, like a badge,
Yeah.
right? But I thought I'd also let people in the comments decide. So, hey, I'm not going to make a decision yet, but Wildest and Coolest suggestion might get picked, and maybe I'll let you do it then. That's maybe fair enough, right? Bring you to Italy and you can go, meh. Just hope you're a tattoo artist.
The circles are going to be very...
very square. Yeah.
Oh, but that's... I don't have any tattoos. But if I was participating in the Olympics... That will be a cool tattoo.
It'll probably be my first. It will be my first, and I assume my last. But you never know. They do say with tattoos, you kind of get the bugs. So.
Yeah, but it's so cool to be. I'm an Olympian.
I can't wait.
Oh, that's so cool, Matt. Thanks for coming. Thanks for sharing. I like the openness, and just best of luck ahead. And if you just keep pushing on social media, you're gonna be a social media sensation eventually.
Tusen takk.
I believe in you. All right, thanks.
Appreciate you. Cheers, everyone.